I'm Nadine Matheson, host of the Conversation podcast. And today my conversation with my guest, Indyana Schneider, whose new book, Since the World is Ending, is out now. We talk about constantly moving the goalposts as creatives. And we can't help it. It's just something we automatically do. But when we do that, when we're constantly moving the goalposts in our creative lives, we don't always celebrate the small wins. So if I look at myself as an example, first I want to get the agent. Actually, no, scratch that. You want to finish the book. So you just want to finish the book. That's the first goalpost. Then you want to get the agent. Then you want to get the publishing deal. The next one is you want to be in all the bookshops. Now you want to be on the Sunday Times or the New York Times bestsellers list. Constantly moving, constantly putting pressure on yourself. And what we need to be doing is celebrating each milestone, setting small goals and then meeting each goal and then moving on to the next one without feeling this overwhelming pressure to get everything done all at once. So this is just some of the things that we talk about in today's conversation. So if you enjoy it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment, and also the link to buy Indyana Schneider's new book, Since the World is Ending, is also in the description. Enjoy. Indyana Schneider, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, my first question for you, Indyana, because when I was doing my research, and whenever I say it, I always feel like I've been stalking you, and I have not been stalking you. But when I was doing
whip out your folder,
standing outside your door, like here I am. But yeah. When I was looking at your career, and like being an opera singer and being a writer, so my first question was like, how would you describe your career up to this point?
It's been odd. I finished university and worked in development for music charities and then an LGBT charity for 5 seconds because that's what I did for a few years, and wrote my book whilst doing that. And then the singing kind of took off, but then COVID happened, but then the book took off, and then COVID we were allowed to go back to singing work. And so then I did some more singing concurrently with book stuff, and that was fine. And then it was really hard, and now it's fine again. So it's been a bit of a weird juggling without knowing what actually the balls are.
So did the book stuff come first for you, like in terms of this is what I want to do creatively?
I think no, definitely not. In terms of what made me feel successful creatively initially, or what was really more helpful financially initially, the book stuff came first. So I sort of never thought I would ever be a writer. I really like reading, and I really like writing for fun, and it was a hobby, but I've sort of on and off known that I was going to do singing since I was 7 or 8. That's been more that way around, but I think it's quite hard, I think, both as a writer and a singer, to sort of define when you feel successful, when you've made it. And I feel I'm trying to become allergic to moving goalposts, because I think that's how we sort of get to a certain stage and we're like, oh, actually I think what I would like to do is, or I think that's and trying to
I think that's the thing. It's like when you decide, especially when you decide to go off on this creative path, however random it can feel at times, is that you feel like, okay, once you've achieved this thing, well, that would be it. And that's all you need to do. And that might just be like signing with an agent or something, or just finishing the book.
Right.
And then you realize, no, that's not it. I need to move the goalposts ahead. It needs to be something else. So now I need to be in this bookshop. And no, that's not it either.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm trying to stop doing that. I'm trying to sort of celebrate various different little achievements.
It's hard though.
It's so hard. I say this, I think I give this advice more than I take it. But I think what was interesting is definitely looking at what I thought was a successful singer versus what I thought was a successful writer was quite different, because I know so many different versions of singers' journeys, because I've known musicians for 20 years. But I knew 0 writers when I started writing. I even now know like maybe 5. So I don't, and so I know those 5 people, and then the sort of bestsellers. And I don't have so many such a nuanced understanding of what it means to be a writer, or the various levels in the middle, which has been quite weird.
It's where, it's only now you're saying it. When I think back to like being in school and being in college, it's like I always knew the singers. Like the singers always made themselves. They just made themselves.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, look, I apologize for my people.
I apologize. I accept your apology. But no, but they always made themselves known. Like even like with their, I remember like our college talent shows and stuff, like they're on stage. So you're aware of them. But in terms of writing, like I didn't know anyone who was writing any other than, if you're doing English class, that's different. But I know who the songwriters were, and the singers were, but I didn't know who the writers were. Like I didn't know anyone who was doing it as a hobby, or even saying this is what they wanted to do as a job, like growing up, until I became a writer. I started moving in those circles.
I feel like you weren't really allowed to say you wanted to be a writer. I feel like there was such a sort of sense of self-importance, or I've got something to say energy around it, even though people say everyone's got a book in them. It's quite a funny like dichotomy.
No, it's true. They'll say you've got a book in you, but no one's showing you how to write the book. Directing you to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't write it.
But you've got one in you.
Don't say that. You've got one in you.
This sounds like, I don't know if this is a weird question, but did you choose opera or did opera choose you?
Opera chose me. No, that is not a weird question. I think I would love to be asked that more, because no one in my family plays an instrument on either side. As far back as you can look, I'd never heard of, like, I didn't really listen to classical music or know much of it. I used to sing pop to Cathart and like, feel myself age 6. And then my pop teacher went on holiday for a week and asked her friend to take over. And her friend happened to be an opera singer and kind of like heard something in my singing and was like, maybe you should sing opera. And so I did.
What was your response to that? Also, how old were you?
I was 7 or 8. It was very weird, which is very young to start singing classical. And I say opera, I do mean like classical singing in different languages, and like not like I'm walking on sunshine. Which was my go-to.
What did your family response say to that? Because you said they weren't like no one in your family, as far as you're aware, is probably creative. Were they creative in any sense, in other areas, or just not at all?
I would say yes, although none of them were sort of professional in creativity. My grandpa worked in marketing, which I think is quite a creative industry. Although he used to speak about working with creatives, so maybe he doesn't self-identify as creative. My mom is a very creative person and has done a lot of jobs, but sort of most recently psychology. She's a therapist, which again I think is quite creative, or you need creativity. But no, not in a sort of my dad definitely not. That one's much clearer to answer. But they were. I haven't told. My mum loves telling this as a story because she's very dramatic, and she would tell it much more dramatically than I will now. But basically, after this singing lesson, when this teacher took my mother into a room and said, "Oh, I think you should sing classically," I got in the car with my mum, and she was like, "We're not going to do that, right? Like that's not really you." And I was, so we were then driving, and she was sort of steering, and I was at the back, and she was like, "So what were you doing in the lesson?" And I was like, "Ma," and she sort of was like, "Ma." And then she was like, "Okay, maybe you should look into this." And but everyone, they were all very like weirded out. I remember my mum said for her 40th birthday, I was in like a kids chorus at the Opera House in Sydney, and she ended up like watch this like La Boheme, which is a tragic opera, on her 40th birthday outdoors in sort of Australia does this opera in the Domain, or they used to at least. And I just remember everyone being like, a bit of a rogue turn for you, but fine, we'll follow.
When you think about, I'm just thinking about like the little kids around me, like the 7 and 8-year-olds. It's like you can see their creativities in like different ways. But I think for it to be so specific and for someone to spot that in you, you normally find that with sports. Like they're going to be like a footballer or a cricketer, like you can see it early.
Right. Yeah. And there were a lot of those kids at my school. In hindsight, I had like a weirdly sporty school.
Yeah.
And so I think sort of I was surrounded by people who kind of had a one-track mind a little bit and sort of knew what they wanted. I definitely was not like that. I almost studied maths, but then I ended up studying music, and then I worked in fundraising, and I did management consultancy for 4.5 minutes, and they hated me as much as I hated them. So. But I sort of kept sort of coming back, and then eventually it was like, all right, opera, take me.
I feel like,
and it did.
I feel like you need those moments though. I feel like you need to have those work moments where you spend years working in a place, and you're like, I know this is not for me. This is just, it's functional. Like it pays the bills. I can have a nice holiday now and again. I can go out and have drinks and dinner with my friends, but this is not serving me in any way, like emotionally, and if you want to do like spiritually or anything. But it just serves a purpose. But you kind of know that you're kind of like biding your time. I feel like we all kind of need those jobs to show you what you don't want, to show you what you really do want.
Well, exactly. Exactly. And actually, when what you do want feels harder, you sort of have this thing in your mind where it's like, well, I could still be in a management consultancy office. So, I can't really.
I remember,
But you went from
like,
criminal law to criminal
yeah,
writing. Like, that's also quite a switch. Like, did you, whilst being a lawyer, just decide that actually there were so many
no.
great stories, details, or textures? What was that
I
like
think
for
for
you?
me, well, I know for me is that I've always wanted to write, and I've always written stories. So say like that 7-8 years onwards, I've always writing stories. But I didn't know you could be a writer. Like I didn't know that was a job. I don't remember, and I was always like an advanced reader in school. So I remember the teacher. I always remember Miss Hunter. Mrs. Hunter never helped me with my reading, and I felt offended because I'm like, you should be spending time with me. But I was an advanced reader. But no one ever saw that and thought, okay, she likes reading. She can write a story. Because they always tell my mum, no, she's a good writer. She can write stories at a young age. But no one said, well, you could be a writer later on in life if that's what you want. No. So it was kind of, I don't know, it was like a hobby. It was just, it was a hobby. Because I had my career that, I'm going to be
exactly.
The lawyer pays the bill.
And then what? Yeah. But then what made you go from hobby to professional? Did someone tell you should, or did you just decide?
I think I knew it was going to happen. And I used to remember, like, I'd be sitting in the office and I'd be writing my client's statements. And I'd be reading them back and I'm like, this is a story. All of this is just a story. Not in they're making it up, but the way I'm like they're lying to me.
That's good.
But the way in which I'm presenting it, where I'm giving their version of events, I'm like, well, this is a story. Like literally, there's a beginning, middle, and end. And then when I'm doing jury speeches, again, I said, I'm trying to convince you to like acquit my client because I'm a defense lawyer. And again, I'm telling them a story. So I think it's like that theme of storytelling was just constant throughout my job. And then it just got to a point just naturally, and I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was getting tired of like running up and down the country with my suitcase, going to different courts. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then what happened? What did happen? I went freelance. Then I was off sick. I had an operation. I was off sick for about 3 months recovering from an operation. And then I entered a short story. No, it wasn't a short story. I entered a story competition. And I always said, for a lawyer, I should have read the small print because I just thought the prize was £2,000. And it wasn't. It was a £2,000 bursary of a creative writing MA. But I didn't see that. I didn't read that. I just saw the money.
That's hysterical. You're like, great.
I thought, I'll do that. So I sent it off. And then, I won the competition. And then I did the course. And then I wrote the book. And here we are. But I'd self-published the book before I'd won that competition as well. So it was just there. I think it was just like, it's just on the surface until it reaches a point. It's like, no, you're going to do this now. Like, you do this now.
Cool.
What about for you? So you get picked, you get scouted, you get seen by a scout.
I get scouted. As in, how did writing come up? Or?
So from doing the charities and then.
It's funny. I was asked a few years ago if I'd ever written much as a kid, and I said no. And then was reminded by friends and family that I wrote loads, and I entered this creative writing competition, and then was flown to Michigan to compete in create. There was this thing called future problem solving, which was so cool. As a kid, you have to write a few thousand words, and you write this little story, and you basically have to think about a problem that will arise in the future and how to solve it through a story. And so I did it with my school teacher, who I really loved, my English teacher, Mrs. Shapiro. And I wrote a story about, we're in a world where everyone takes a pill, so we all look the same, so it gets rid of any sort of discrimination. And then one of the kids stopped taking the pill and sort of develops a different complexion and freckles and all this sort of thing. And it's sort of about this, that we need beauty and we need
variety and
individuality and culture and history and what that I don't think it was as complicated, as complex describing, but I sort of wrote that, and then there was an international version of it where you had to write in tandem with other young 13, 14-year-olds in America. And so I went with my mum, and American universities are really, really weird, and it was in some Lansing, and everything was Spartan themed, and it was a very odd experience. So yes, I did actually write as a kid, and then much less so later at school, and then not at all at university. And then whilst at university, didn't read a lot because it was quite hectic, but by the end was really craving fiction and then sort of gobbled up a bunch of contemporary fiction and loved it and was like, oh, I'd love to like try this and like try do this. And then I was really heartbroken, and so just wanted to like write a love story or sort of a story asking like questions that I had about why the breakup had happened and all of these sorts of things. And I had this long commute to the like charity sort of third sector work, and just wrote it on the commute over the course of however long, and then happened to be living with someone, Naomi, who now works in publishing, but at the time was doing a master's in English literature, comparative literature, I think. And then she's read a bit of it and said to me, like, this isn't bad. Like, maybe you should do something about this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I did.
Was that your debut, 28 Questions?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it? Because people always ask, like, when you're working full time, and and it's not just those solid hours, that block of time from 9 to 5. It's the hours outside of it. It's all that commuting time. Work takes up all of your time. So people always ask, well, where do you find the time to write a novel in addition to doing a full-time job? And I always say you have to steal moments. You have to steal time.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember sort of, it was a great job for so many reasons, but it wasn't a particularly creative job. So I did have kind of creative energy to burn at the end of the day. And I remember things like I'd be the last one in the office at 6:00 or something. And I'd be meeting a friend, but I'd organized to meet the friend at 7:30, not 7 or not 6:30, so I could spend an hour writing afterwards. And I would sort of like clock off, and then because I had this scene in my head that was kind of marinating all day, and then I just wanted to get it down. And there was so much energy in the sort of scarcity of the time, the creative time. And the way that I sort of think about sort of writing versus editing is like writing I really can do in like bursts and sort of captured moments. But editing, I kind of need I don't know how you find this, but a big set of hours where I can really like get into the world and obsess over synonyms and things like this.
I like the editing process. I know writers, and I've spoken to writers on the podcast, they don't like editing at all. But I like it in a sense that with that first draft, and I know it's a mess, and I know in advance it's going to be a mess, so I get comfortable with that. But with editing, I've got this thing now. Like I've got this product, but I have this thing, I have this body of work, and now I can find the time. Now I'm going to fix it. Like I know what all the parts are there. So
which is nice,
and I like that matter of pulling it apart and then putting it back together and taking things out, and now I need to put something else. I like that part of it. I like the part of that process.
And it's amazing how sometimes you think it's going to be this massive fix, and actually if you add in 2 lines, 2 pages prior, everything suddenly like works. And I really like the sort of puzzle aspect.
I love that too. The jigsaw.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's also maddening, or can be.
There are times, especially when I get my editing notes, and some the notes are like, oh, these are good, and then you get one comment and you're like, what are you talking about? You have no idea. You suddenly turn into a diva. It's like you have no idea who I am and what this means to me and who this person is. And then and maybe 2 days later I'm like, no, you were right.
I love that. I the sort of like mourning that happens after sort of critical feedback, and then the slow like crawl to realization that actually this is going to probably make the book better.
I was going to say, it's like recovering from a hangover. It's just like, I've come, I can see clearly now.
Or like, it's also the way that if I disagree with somebody, and the time I sort of get like quite a big like, and energetic, well, you're wrong and this is why, blah, blah, blah. And then like, I think about it for a while. And then 2 days later, I'm like, I think they had a point. And I often crawl back and apologize. Or
when you look at this, just popped into my head as a singer musician, and then the other hat as a writer. Do you respond to criticism? I mean, not from editors or music directors, but do you respond to criticism from like the readers or people in the audience members differently for each medium, or does it just feel the same regardless?
I think, no, it's definitely different. I think because of, the first thing that popped into my head then is I really feel confident in that I know what is good singing.
Yeah.
And I really feel confident in I know when I'm in singing, giving my best. So at the end of a performance, I can tell you how it went and feel really confident that was how it went. So if somebody says to me, you were rubbish, I'll be like, no, I wasn't. If I wasn't, or if I was, I'll be like, yup. And it's kind of, there's a lot of clarity for me around that. So there's not as much like power in the response. Whereas with something I've written, it feels too connected or something. I can't tell you if it's good. I can tell you if it's like finished or if I'm like happy with it or if I really like it. But I feel like I'm a bit more open to criticism that cuts because I have no idea how it's going to be received.
It's weird.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It's just weird though, because I understand it. 'Cause, I mean, my only comparison is, so it's not creative. It's like being a lawyer. It's like, I know when I've done a good speech.
Exactly.
I know. Even at the beginning, I'm thinking this case is like, there's no way. There's no way. This client's getting off. But the time I've written my speech and I've delivered my speech, I'm like, no, this is a good. I've almost convinced myself. So I know when I've done and I know when I've done a good speech. And also, it's not, in a weird way, it's not a reflection on me, because this case isn't about me. It's about my client, and whatever the verdict is, that's just what they decided. But I don't take offense to it, and I know. But with the writing, all of it is me, and I don't know. I could, like yesterday, I'm working on something new, and oh my god, it was just pain. It was just absolute pain. It's like I've written books before. I can write a book. It's not like I can't write a book, but all of those doubts seep in when it comes to my writing. And I wouldn't have that same experience if I was just doing a court case representing a client.
I also think there's probably something in the fact that you do so many of these cases, or I do so many performances, but actually in your life you will probably write not that many books comparatively. And I also think the amount of time we spend preparing, like for me an opera performance, for you a case, is much shorter than the sort of years you spend working on a novel. And my like perfectionist streak kicks in much more with writing than singing, because singing is ephemeral. It's going to exist for the 6 minutes it exists, and then it will stop existing unless someone records it. But that's a whole other conversation. I'm always happy, I say, with 80%. If I have sung 80% of my ability on a given day, like that's enough. And if it's more than that, fantastic. If it's less than that, damn. But with writing, once you've submitted it, once it's printing, that is your 100%. That's hard, because if someone's like 1 star, you're like, what? No.
No, God, that's so true. It's like, because even with the court cases, it's okay, they are recorded, but I know they're not being recorded for them to be release the whole court transcript, and you can go and find it in Waterstones or pick up on Amazon. I know it's not for that purpose, especially when it's in the court, if it's in the Crown Court. If it's an appeal case, I know there'll be a transcript, but you're not even getting the full transcript. You're just getting maybe like the summary, and then the judge's the judge's judgment at the end of it. I'm not there. I'm not being exposed in any way. But
don't take a bow. Thank you so much. I really smashed that.
Maybe they should. I can have my moments. Could you please give me my 5 stars? But I'm not being exposed. I'm not being exposed in it. There's not really a permanent record in that respect. And when it's over, I just move on to the next. Well, I just moved on to the next thing. Whereas with writing, it's permanent. It's there.
And it's not immediate either. No. There's a Alain de Botton quote, which is something like, it's not, I'm going to paraphrase, but it's like, writing is telling a joke and waiting 2 years to find out if it was funny. Whereas if you sing or you have a case, you'll get the verdict. I'll get the sort of response of the audience almost immediately.
I can read them. I can read the jury. But I can read the jury when I'm standing there doing a speech, and I'm watching the jury, like all 12 faces. You can see one person be like, oh God, like rolling eyes, like, really, Miss Matheson? I don't think so.
Oh, that's funny.
Or some.
No, we can.
It's done. I go and it's just no, it's not fun.
It's immediate feedback, which is very different to books. Whereas in an opera hall, maybe if I'm right at the front of the stage, I can see the first row. It's normally like one person sleeping next to the conductor.
Then it's a blur.
But you can hear, and there is a sense of. Also, you get lots of goes.
Yeah.
I can't publish 7 drafts of 28 questions in the way that you would have 7 iterations of a performance of Carmen.
Yeah.
And in the second one, that went really well. But actually in the third one, I felt this. But the fourth one, the audience you publish it once, and then you're like,
bye. It's true. You don't get any second chance. I mean, just chances. I mean, the only second chance I might get of a novel is that between the hardback edition coming out and the paperback. Like having with one of my books, I'm like, we have spelt this guy's name wrong. Like, I don't know why. I don't know how we missed it, because it was written one way in the first book and the second book, but somehow in the third book, we all decided to call this client, not this client, to call this character's partner a completely different name. And I was like, how did we miss that? But we could fix it between the hardback and the paperback, and also, you can always update the Kindle, but you can't take big massive chunks and rewrite it, because then change it. It then becomes a completely different book.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's also something in terms of the sort of writing, singing. Maybe this is slightly less criminal, like aligned to your work, but maybe not. Is singing, it's always someone else's creative vision and someone else's words and someone else's music. I am very much a sort of pawn in the vision of a director and in the musical vision of a conductor and the composer. So I'm actually on the sort of creative hierarchy, like quite low down. Yeah. Whereas a writer, I'm it. If you're judging this show, you're judging me. And like, not to say that there's not a lot of work from so many different angles that goes into creating a book, but in terms of what people are responding to, it's and who takes the sort of creative responsibility, it's the author. And that's a very different experience.
It's a miracle.
And it works.
It's a miracle we even do more. Like, we write more books, like, just because when you think about it, like, objectively, and if I look at like very clinically, facts, pros and cons of it, you want to do it again. Like, why would you put yourself through that?
Yeah. I think I was going to say like childbirth, but I feel like I shouldn't say that because that's not true. But I think that there's something very addictive as well about the process of publishing, that as it's happening, you do want, like, seeing covers for the first time is so exciting. Having like first readers respond or authors read it and respond is so exciting. Like, seeing it in a bookshop. I do, because I guess I did know a second book was going to come out, because I sort of entered the publishing industry on a 2-book deal. But I remember when I sort of went through those stages for 28 Questions, already being excited for a future book, because it was so cool.
No, it's true, because even though yesterday Monday I started writing my new book, and the first, I'm telling to those people now, it's like 1st of September, I write a book. So I started writing the first book, and I was like, I just need to write the prologue. I'm a prologue person. I just need to write the prologue. And it went from, I just need to write 500 words. And then it went to, I just need to write 300 words. I just need
the goalpost.
I was shifting the goalpost. I think I wrote 324, and I was like, that is it. That's enough. You've started. All you needed to do was start. And then yesterday, I was like, I need to write chapter 1. So I'm very linear. That's just how my brain. I'm just a very linear writer. And I couldn't do it. It was just so hard. And I just thought,
had you planned it? So you've got everything that's going to happen. You've got
Indyana. I will show you my plan. Like,
do it. Put out.
This is like, I have a plan. I have pages of my plan. I know what
you just read that line next to you.
I know what this book is. But listeners who are not watching us, I'm holding up my plan. I know what the story is, but I couldn't get it together yesterday. Like, I went back to writing longhand. I thought, I just need to get words in order, and then you go through those moments of, well, maybe this is it. Maybe I've hit the end. I'm not going to be writing any books. And then I saw my publishers got in touch with me yesterday, and they sent me what did they send me? The trailer for the cover reveal of my book coming out in February, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I should write another one. I can write another one. So you move the goalpost, and then you tell yourself you can't do it, but then you have those moments where, you remember why you did it, and that actually you can do it.
I was on a walk with my partner, I think yesterday. Shame, I've been driving her so mad with all of this, like up and down with all the book stuff. But I said to her, actually, I feel like the first book was really just like a passion project, and I didn't know what I was doing, so there was no pressure attached. And the second book is set over 3 days, so it's really tense, but I really only had to write 3 days worth of action, and maybe I'm not capable of writing another book. And she was like, what the hell are you talking about? You've written 2. Like, what more evidence do you need than to but it's those moments of insecurity or doubt, and it is so different. I don't know if you found this as well, because I've obviously never written in a series, but the process of starting something new, like, in a lot of ways feels like starting everything from scratch.
It does, even with a series.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Because anything can happen. Mm-hmm. You're in charge.
Yeah.
your character could like turn left, right, straight, turn around, jump up, and there's a and I think that sort of blank canvas feeling is so overwhelming sometimes.
But you wouldn't have that as a musician, as a singer, would you? Because it's just you have to familiarize yourself with the song and the music. But other than that, you're not. I don't think you're going to be feeling like, can I do this again? Because you know you can sing, which is a weird thing to say because you know you can write.
But I think that I have. Lots of people will disagree with me if they are opera singers listening, but you never know. But I have a singing technique that I can pretty much use for all the different repertoire that I sing. Now, musically, I make different choices depending on the repertoire. Like sometimes I will, depending on the language that you're singing in, have to make adjustments. But basically, I studied a singing technique that feels tension-free, and then I apply that to my work. Whereas I think writing in first person versus third person versus writing a book set over 3 days or 4 years or in one place or across many different countries, like they're all almost different techniques. Or I think you could think about it that way. And I'm kind of not interested in repeating. I don't know, probably like a bit of a masochist, but I really enjoy the challenge of, my first book is set over 4 years and the second book is set over 3 days. And the first book's in past tense, the second book's in present tense. I wanted to sort of
stretch yourself,
figure out what tension changes. Exactly. And like innovate within me. Obviously people have written present tense books before, but I came up with this thing. But it is hard to start a new project. I am empathizing hard.
I know, I appreciate it. And I'm sure other people listening who write, like you just, and there's something in your head that says this should not be hard. Like you've done this before. Like why are you even having this conversation with yourself? But maybe it's just a process you just have to go through, and it enables you to stretch yourself.
But it is also so satisfying when you like are feeling sort of blocked or you don't know what's coming next, and then you figure out that solution. You sort of figure out where that puzzle piece goes. The satisfaction, it's almost relative to the difficulty. I don't know. I always think about this also when I'm nervous for a performance. Is I know that the more nervous I am, the better I'm going to feel like when we finish, and that sort of rush. So when I'm not nervous at all, I'm like, well, it's just gonna end and I'll go home. But if I'm freaking out, I'm like, oh, but that bow's going to feel so good.
Is the nerves the same for when the book is coming out, like just before publication day? Or is it completely different?
No, it's so different. It's so different. I think because by the time it's published, well, definitely in like literary fiction or sort of what I write in, like I'm not really going to like, it can be quite anticlimactic. It's like the book appears and you're like, well,
there it is.
There it is. And I've sort of created what I think is at that moment in time, perfect version of this in the way that I will never have with singing. And singing so many different things can change your daily form is what people talk about. But if I wake up with a sore neck or I've been a bit ill or I talked too much or drank too much, everything is like, it's so much less predictable how the performance is going to go than writing, where everything I have control over, I do have like pretty like complete control over.
No, it does. No, it does make sense. Yeah. It's just amazing. Like before I have these conversations, I never know how these conversations are going to go. Like I have my questions. Like I always have my set of questions that I'm going to ask. But I like it when it flows. But it's interesting just seeing how creativity works in different mediums. Because because a lot of people just think if you're a creative person, you're a creative person. Like if you get nervous about being on the stage, you'll be nervous about writing a book. Right. And no, like your process will be the same, but there's so many different variables and so many different things that make it different.
Right. And I think there's like different kinds of ways of experiencing nerves. Like I think with singing, it's quite like a shot. It's like sort of a cortisol hit. You get filled with adrenaline, your hands shake. Like I don't experience that with books, but I do over a longer period of time have a deep sense of like dread. Like what if this is rubbish or what if it doesn't, no one reads it, but it's not adrenaline inducing hands shaking. It's sort of like a pit of insecurity.
Which is why I said, if you thought about it objectively, we wouldn't do this because it's insane.
But I think I would probably get nervous in if I was doing an event or even a podcast in like a slightly more similar world to the singing, because there's a sort of there's a time pressure, there's a performance pressure in the moment to say something interesting or sing a certain way, and so that's probably a little bit more similar.
It's funny because when I first started doing events and everyone just thought, oh, you'd be fine. You'd be fine. you're used to public speaking. I'm like, but no, it's different. It's completely different. I always say that my audience when I'm doing a trial, it will never be any bigger than 12. It's only 12 people I need to convince and persuade and, follow me down my my path that I'm leading them down.
Yeah.
It's only 12 people. Minimum it's 1 because it might be just the judge. So it's never going to be more than 12. Whereas, and it's not about me. Even though I always say to the baby lawyers, juries, they watch too much TV. They expect a show, but really it's not about me. It's about it's about the defendant. It's about the witness. That's the show for them. Whereas if I'm on stage and I'm doing a panel, I'm doing an event, it's all about me. It's all about my work. And my audience is, worst case scenario, it's 3 people in a library because only 3 people turned up and every writer had that experience. Or it is 2,000 people.
Right. Did you ever get nervous? Because I think in my mind, if it's not about you, that could potentially be more nerve inducing in the way that if I'm singing, I remember singing with somebody else for their music school exam. And I'm like, oh, if I mess this up, I mess things up for them. Is that did you get nervous in that way?
It's not nerve. It's just this really, I suppose it is nerves because I don't want to be there. And I think you feel that more of when I've covered other people's cases and I've covered their cases in the Court of Appeal, because I'm like, this is not my appeal. This is not my case. But I'm taking now. If I mess it up, it's kind of on me, and I'm responsible for. You want. I need to do a good job for the person I've covered for, and also in the Court of Appeal, it's just horrible. I don't like it. There's 3 judges just looking down. Literally, they're looking down on you.
Oh no,
and asking you questions. And I'm like, I just want to get in and get out. I don't want to be any longer than I have to. But when it's also I suppose confidence and time and how long you've been doing something and experience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've never studied writing in the way that I've studied singing, whereas you have studied writing. So I guess you would have a more of a curriculum in your head on which to judge writing, discuss.
No, I think my course was the way my MA was different to how I've seen other MAs where it's very much a let's look at themes and let's look at I don't know, just more academic, whereas ours was the way I did just felt a bit more creative, if that makes sense. It just flowed a bit more natural. It didn't feel like I needed to, I don't know, sit down and reread all of Austen before I could write a chapter. It didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
When you got into publishing, finally got into publishing, actually, how did your family respond? Because they've been with you on this opera musical journey, and now it's India's on the phone going, I need you to buy my book.
I'm trying to remember how my family responded. I think I had sent my mum and I are very close, and I've sent her a lot of versions of the book that she had read and we chatted about. And my grandma is also a therapist.
Oh, so both your mum and your gran?
I know. I had no chance. No. My grandma's a couples still working as a couples counselor, which is a slightly different sort of version of therapy than my mum. And really, really interesting if you write books. We've done interviews where I've pretended to be a character and my gran has asked me questions.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
It's so cool. I'm so lucky. It was so fun.
I'm going to apologise for cutting you. You ever watched, is it Couples Therapy on BBC? Is it on BBC Two?
I don't know, but I know.
Yeah, and it's just, I look at them like my clients what?
Yeah. What? I mean, there was a TV show, State of the Union. Did you ever hear? It was a 15-minute TV show quite a few years ago. And
I did.
You would only see what happened in the sort of 15 minutes of that therapy session, and you had to put. I loved that. But yes, no, I used that. I used conversations with my grandma to figure out character or intention, or because I think for me the most important. This is true. Well, an important thing while writing is that you can kind of understand where every single character is coming from. Not even because I've written both of the first 2 books in first person, so obviously you're in the head of the protagonist. But everyone else's behavior needs to make sense to them. And as a writer, you need to be in the character of the protagonist who doesn't understand why people are acting the way they are. But you also need to be the sort of overlooking party who knows what and that chatting with my gran about every other character's intentions was super helpful in that way. But my family were just okay, sure.
What are you just doing today?
Yeah, I think I think my family read a lot, and in the way that they don't really listen to classical music. So I think that they were almost more excited about the writing stuff because it was a world that they were familiar with, felt more like glamorous to them in a way, although
the
sort of the opera hall maybe. Yeah. Because they, I guess they would put those sorts of creatives on a kind of pedestal in the way that they like don't care about classical music at all.
I need to stop saying weird today, but it's just really so interesting about how creativity is perceived in different mediums, but also people who aren't, I'm saying creative in air quotes, who aren't creative themselves, where they place it, like on a scale.
Right, yeah. Well, exactly. Like I've definitely been at sort of parties where I will speak to somebody who is a like mathematician or a teacher or something and be so curious and as to like what their world is, because it's so different to mine. And that is, and I've had people approach me with the same curiosity. Oh my God, being an opera singer or writer, like what does that involve? And there are some people where it's so foreign to them that the conversation kind of dies. They're like, oh
really? Okay.
I'm like, okay, well, bye. Good. Like, tell me more about you.
Let me tell you about my plumbing issue. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it is. Yeah, you're right. It is interesting because I think basically either people find it really exciting and glamorous, or so different from their experience that they actually either don't care or don't know how to engage.
Yeah. I think going back to having those sessions with your grandmother, and I always know, for me, especially when it comes to writing stories and writing first person, my preference is always third person. If I'm writing a novel, I can do first person, and it's not like I can't write first person, I can, but I feel more comfortable just doing it for a short story, because I feel like I can't be in one person's head for over like 80,000 words. I just feel like it's too much. I mean, that's just me. I need to stretch myself to do it. I've trying to do it with this book, but I didn't even last a prologue.
That's funny. So that was in first person. I think that is one of the things where being a singer or like sort of having worked in acting helps, because I have done, maybe not as long as it takes to write a book, but I have been in a character's head for extended periods of time before and just had to exist in that way, if that makes sense. And that is a similar experience to first person, even though I made up the one character and someone else made up the singing character. But I'm used to like emoting as not myself, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to get personal about what you discovered about yourself. But I was wondering, when you were having those sessions with your gran, but you having those sessions to learn more about your characters, did you discover stuff about yourself in the process?
I think I definitely discovered, it's going to sound so basic, I've got two sort of responses to that. I think it made me think about the fact that we all think differently in a way that, especially when you're a bit younger, is quite hard to get your head around. So the sort of two ideas I had just then was, one is that the narratives we tell ourselves about a situation can be vastly different. And you can have a conversation with someone and the conversation exists. Like that is absolute.
Yeah.
You could transcribe it. But actually, the two people involved in that conversation's experiences might be totally different. Not only that, but how they remember the conversation might be totally different. Or what they think they were really talking about, like the subtext of the conversation might be totally different. And that was like kind of shocking to think, and to sort of like in the context of, say, there's a breakup of these two characters and the one person is 100% sure that they behaved in like morally correct, the kindest version of themselves that they could possibly be in that moment way. And that's the one character's interpretation. And the other character is like, how could you be so selfish? And actually both of those can exist simultaneously and both be true. That was interesting. And then I guess the other thing, which like people are talking much more about in the context of like Instagram psychology, I would call it, like attachment theory, is like, we can both be stressed about something and I will need space and you will need like comfort and connection. And like, actually there's no one way of responding to stress, in a way that I think when I was 21, I was like, well, when I need stress, I need a hug. So you'll need a hug, and you'll go give someone a hug and they're like, don't touch me. And you're like, oh God. But actually that character or that person needs something different. And so I think, my grandma taught me empathy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. At the age of 24.
You learn empathy.
I'm joking. But yeah. So I think that was very interesting. I mean, my dad is like so convinced that I'm like trying to answer big like life
existential questions in your novel.
Existential questions. And I am, in a way, like I definitely think about a question that's obsessing me and then try and approach it from a million different angles. But my dad, for example, in the second novel, really there's like this, he feels like there's this choice that the protagonist, and he's right in a lot of ways, there's this choice that this protagonist needs to make between X and Y. But then my dad was convinced I too was making that choice while writing the book. And I was like, there's no way I would ever choose X, Dad. Like there was that like, what? But you know, it worked dramatically, and I thought it made an interesting story. And it's definitely, I've seen people who want to choose X, so wanted to explore how those people might be thinking. You know what I mean? So yeah.
It's you know, you're talking about how one person will see the same situation, but there's basically 2 points of views to it, 2 interpretations of it.
Right.
And it's what they always say about childhood. If you've got siblings, you've all had the same childhood, but every sibling, I mean, I've got 2 brothers, and I'm pretty sure put 3 of us together in a line, our interpretation of our childhood and our family setup and dynamics, there's going to be variations. It won't all be the same.
Yeah. I mean, my partner's an identical twin, so we have this conversation a lot. Having had like sort of an identical DNA experience of hood, and I'm an only child, so you know it's quite a weird experience. Yeah,
but it's funny when you was talking about, you know, how 2 different people can respond to stress. My response to stress is to go to sleep. So I'm the person. What? I just go to sleep. It's like don't bother me. I don't want to talk about it. I don't know. I need to go to sleep. And I think I just shut down. I just shut down. I go to sleep and then wake up. Okay.
Do you wake up fine?
Yeah, depending on what it is. I mean, there were times when I was like really, really busy with court cases, and there was just a lot going on, and I would just go home and I would just sleep, and I just wake. There probably was no variation, like like my body chemical makeup. It was just still the same, but I just have. I have. That's just my way of dealing with it. I just shut down for a bit, so I wouldn't be the huggy type. Like, don't touch me. I'm going to sleep.
I would. Okay, we're far away. It was safe. But I'm thinking, like, if you actually just go to sleep and then wake up clear and better, I think you beat stress. You won. That's. I'm sure. Or maybe you sort of, your like initial response is to. I mean, I'm armchair psychology. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm glad it works for you.
It works for me.
I can't sleep when I'm stressed. I'm jealous.
Maybe just an automatic, like that fight or flight response. I was like, no, shut down. We're not dealing with this right now. You can deal with it later, but in this moment, go to sleep.
Yeah. That's
it. It's very weird. Very weird.
Very weird.
Indyana, we should talk about your books. I can't speak. We should talk about your book.
Sure.
Your new book. So while you're here. But before I go on to that though, with the release of with your debut, 28 questions, because I asked you questions, what did you learn about yourself with your sessions with your brand? But what has your publishing journey taught you about yourself?
Taught me about myself. I think that I come up with a lot of different ideas for things I really want to pursue.
Yeah.
I want to try this. I want to try that. Let me do this. Oh, I wonder if I could ever. And I think the fact that I was able to stick at this one and make it successful and kind of carve a career from an idea was very, it's kind of like amazing to me that like sort of I approach now, if I have a million ideas, basically saying like one of these like will happen because it's happened before. I've made it happen from nothing. And actually having a long-term project is really good for me. I think having that sense of continuity when singing career is so, you do one project, then you wait, then you do another project, and you move to this country and you move to that. There's so much lack of continuity that having, So I guess those 2 things, whereas like one actually is like, you can actually do the thing if you want to do the thing, which is like deeply calming or is lovely. And then the other thing is having like certain things in my life that feel more continuous is really grounding. A project that I can always come back to, or can always think about, or and I think it's also made me a more attentive person to the world in the way that I think as a writer you kind of need to be. I'm in the conversation and thinking about the conversation, or I'm in the environment and thinking about the environment, or which is lovely. I have really enjoyed that. But also I think I'm such a control freak in so many ways. And as a writer, once a book is in the world, you kind of can't be. I can't be in your living room telling you what I meant by this sentence. Like, you do have to let go, and it's something I really struggle with. So that's been, I think, useful, or, it's definitely put me through my paces a bit, that like, once the book is out there, it's out there, and you sort of have to start thinking about the next one. If you
could you imagine it though? someone sitting next to you as you're reading a book and they're like, no, you've misinterpreted this whole paragraph completely wrong.
I would love that. I would love that. I'd be like, listen, I think what you don't understand about what this character is. Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like,
I think that you can learn.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry,
go on. You go.
You can learn a lot as a writer probably from like Q&Aing a reader or like various different kinds of readers, but maybe that would drive you mad. As in like,
yeah, I would be the sort of person, I know what would annoy me. It wouldn't be their interpretation of thing. I'd be like, did you actually read that? Or have you just skimmed it? That's the sort of person I would be.
That's funny. Have you really absorbed my words?
I don't think you're paying attention because you've got EastEnders on right now. Like, no, pay attention.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay.
I don't need to
be that.
Yeah, I don't need to be sitting there. It wouldn't be a good experience.
Think about the reader while you're writing, because I find that paralyzing.
Yeah, I've asked other authors this if they have the reader in mind, and I think the majority of them say no. And I don't think I don't, because if I did, I don't think I would finish, because I'd be constantly second guessing myself.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Do you?
Because I go through. I don't know. I think I had sort of started a third novel and then paused it because I think it was trying to do a million different things. And what was, I think, going on is I was approaching it very much like a product, like, especially because the second book is coming out and I hope it does well. I have my like business hat, my commercial hat on. And so but actually in doing that, there was a lack of creative authenticity in that manuscript. So this is like, feels very present for me, because this has kind of been over the last few weeks. I've sort of been thinking a lot about this. And I think I'm back in that I actually need to divorce the idea of a creative project from a career project again in order to do the creative project justice.
You kind of have to put yourself in, you have to put yourself in like two, or you have to create different versions of yourself, I think, for each part of the process. So
that's so true.
It needs to be like the draft. This is my first draft for me. First draft, Nadine. Then this is edit Nadine. Yeah. Now this is author Nadine, because now we're out there dealing with the book. Yeah.
That's a great way of looking at it. I love that.
Thank you. You can tell you can.
Yeah. I'll take that. She'll be thrilled. She'll have lots of questions for you.
I'm open for it. Tell her I don't mind. We'll have a chat. Right. So let's talk about your new book, Since the World is Ending. I never asked this question. Who came up with the title for your book? Was it you, or was it a collaborative process with your editor?
In the first book, it was a collaborative process with my editor and agent, actually.
Oh, really? Your agent too?
And, yeah, she's wonderful. Judith Murray.
Hello, Judith.
Absolute legend. Hi, Judith. But in the second book, it was me, and it was the title from the beginning, and it didn't change, which is quite rare, I think. But the concept of the book was inspired partly by a song and partly by a poem. The song is "If the World Was Ending" by J.P. Sachs. Mm-hmm. And the poem is a Ben Lerner poem that's referenced in, I think, 1004, which starts, "Since the world is ending, why not let the children touch the paintings?" And that was sort of the very initial idea of this novel, is like, how do we think about consequence in a world on fire? Or, how can we possibly make choices and stick to those choices when you could do anything, and within the confines of X, Y, and Z? But I think that was kind of the initial questions that the questions that I was thinking about when I was writing. So that the title just was there for that, and then was kind of a rooting, because as I say, when I write, I sort of like to investigate something from a million different perspectives. So having that title actually provided quite a grounding initial sort of idea seed that I could then water.
It makes sense. You were watering it. Okay, so
I was.
Would you like to tell the listeners of the conversation about Since the World is Ending? Then I have two questions to ask you about that.
Sure. Yes. So it's a book. At once, I think it is a like deep philosophical look on what it means to make choices, what it means to choose different kinds of love, and to be an artist, and to separate art from life, and whether we can do that. That's one way of reading it. And another way of reading it is a sort of hot bisexual love triangle set in Vienna on like a really hot weekend. And if you want to read it for that reason, that's also a sort of sexy, angsty, will they, won't they? But yeah, that's how I would describe the book. So it follows Maya, who is a violinist who has moved to Vienna and has created her perfect life in this orchestra there as a young artist in an orchestra. And she's sleeping with her hot colleague, Lucia. And is sort of sculpted what she thinks is sort of the perfect version of the life she's always wanted. And in walks the love of her ex-boyfriend, Josh, with something he has to tell her. And we watch her perfect life, inverted commas, unravel over a weekend as Josh arrives and sort of brings a lot of her past into her perfect present.
Okay. Right. So my two questions are, did you face any challenges when writing Since the World is Ending?
No, it was really I just wrote it and then it
was fine. It was perfect. No issues, whatever. Next question.
Yeah. It took 5 minutes. That's fine. So many challenges. I think getting the tone and the ideas aligned is a thing. So I am, there's a version of writing a really lighthearted, fun, sexy, funny book that might not have worked with these sort of deeper themes. So I was sort of trying to figure out what kind of voice the narrator should have to be at once sort of exciting to read, like you sort of really feel for her and you're sort of connected on a heart-to-heart way, but can also explore these actually quite like big questions that I want to look at. So that was quite tricky. And then, I say Josh arrives on her doorstep with something to tell her. The something he had to tell her changed multiple times throughout the course of the book, because like that makes so much of difference as to Josh's character, their relationship, how Maya, the protagonist, is going to respond to that. And this is kind of this blank canvas feeling where it is like anything can happen, you can choose. And that can be really freeing, but also quite paralyzing. Or so that's a book about choices being difficult to write because you have to make choices. Is that was a whole version in and of itself. But no, it was really, really hard to write. But my wonderful friend Eleanor Shearer, who has read 100 different versions of this novel, the really sweet thing that she said about it it is a testament to what happens when you take a lot of time over a project, because the version of it that is published, in my current opinion, is the right version of it. Yeah.
Okay, so following on from that, if you could spend an afternoon with any of your characters from your book, whom would you choose and why?
I think this is a really hard question because I wouldn't want to spend time with the protagonist because I was in her head for 5 years. And that's
a long time.
It's very long, like 4 years, but I feel like we're too close. It would be too codependent and toxic an afternoon. So I think either in this book, her love interest, Lucia, who's just really hot, I think we'd have a lot of fun. She's really like deep, really musical. I think I'd love to know her opinions on lots of different things, languages and art and her background and all of this. Or a friend character in the novel who's called Georgia, who is potentially morally questionable, but just really deeply fun. And so if you're with someone for an afternoon, it'll be a memorable afternoon with Georgia.
I think that's probably why when I ask this question, very rarely is the answer one of the main characters. I think because as writers, you spend so long with the main characters, the thought of spending an afternoon with them is like, I'm done with you. Give me someone else in the room. Give me someone else. Give me your dad. Anybody. The postman.
But because you asked this exactly, just someone from the back. But because you asked this question, do you have someone in mind in your books? Because I feel like in crime writing, that would be...
It changes.
Right.
Yeah. If you ask me, like today, if you ask me who would I want to spend time with, I would want to spend... And he's not even a character who has actually appeared in the final version of a book. He's a character who's appeared in the pages that have not made the final cut. And...
That's true.
Yeah. And so he's called Dante, and he's the brother of Stephen Pelletier, who's my detective's boss and also her ex-lover. Okay. And I bought him, I had a scene with him, and I'm like, I want to know more about him. He's fun. And he just...
Dante's spin-off series. I see it.
Dante needs his own series. So there's him. So yeah, but if you ask me tomorrow, next week, it'll probably change again. But very rarely is it Henley or Ramita, because I know them now. I know them so well. Yeah. So everyone else is more fun. Okay, your last final questions, Indyana. Are you an introvert or extrovert? I don't know why I'm laughing. I couldn't get the word out. I've said it so many times. Are you an introvert or extrovert, or a hybrid of the two?
I would say I'm a hybrid of the two, which feels like a cop-out. But I also find this binary so confusing. I don't know, because people laugh at me whenever I say I'm not an extrovert, because I'm quite obviously extroverted in a lot of the sort of characteristic ways. But at the same time, I do recharge alone, ... And people laugh at me when I say this, but I really like reading. And like, I would like mostly choose like a good book over a good like party.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which I I think that's an introvert's answer.
I think it is.
But I also do really love talking to people and learning about people, and I do find that energizing in a way. I don't know. It's but I think actually the sort of writing career and singing career ticks a lot of both of those boxes, in the sense that in the singing career, I'm in a room with a lot of really loud people. We've all been trained to be loud. That is
to be heard, to project. I always say it to my baby lawyers, you need to project your voice.
Right. So much, and everyone really wants to show you how well they project. So in this room with a lot of big personalities doing big personality things, which I don't feel out of place in. And then I can go home in the peaceful, quiet, and write and think, and that sort of
ticks the box.
Is also really gorgeous. Yeah. So
it's kind of like when I tell people I like to go to the cinema on my own. And they're like, why? How could you do that? You need to be with people. I'm like, no. And I think it ticks that introvert. I always say hybrid. Yeah. But I like being I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't care what the guy in front of me is doing. I like it. It's just me.
Yeah. I have a friend who's just gone on holiday by herself, I think for the first time in many, many years. And she said it was the best holiday she's ever been on. And we've been away together. So I'm like, well, okay.
We'll not take it personally.
But it is really, and I would describe this friend of mine as extroverted, but actually she really needed a lot of that alone. I just think potentially this binary is fraught.
Hybrid's the way to go. Okay, so what challenge or experience, good or bad, in your life shaped you the most?
I find this hard because there are lots of individual. I knew someone at university who used to ask people this deep question, what are the 3 choices you've made that have impacted your life the most, which feels like a very different. I feel like choosing to move to the UK when I was 18 obviously impacted my life massively, etc., etc. But actually the sort of thing I did as a kid that really I think influenced my personality was I was really, really big into martial arts. Yeah, I was that was kind of my thing for many, many years, and I did it from the age of 3. And I feel like when you were I sort of did it for a long period of time, 5 times a week.
Oh wow!
Really karate, like a real massive nerd about it. But I from that learnt, I think, a lot of discipline. I think you learn a lot of I get knocked down and I get up again mentality. I think there's a lot of respect you have for people who are above and below you, and there's a very sort of clear ranking system, which sounds toxic potentially, but I think you sort of learn to that sort of upwards and downwards respect, and just really hard work. You can't skip steps in karate. You really do have to learn A before you learn B, and then you can learn C, because if you learn C without A, you'll fall on your face, literally.
That's why.
And so
that's why I get told off by the sensei.
Oh really? You do it as well?
But I wasn't 5 days a week. I was Tuesdays and Thursdays. And what I learned about myself is that I did not take instruction well. And I'm always trying to jump ahead.
Right.
You can't do that.
No, you can't do that. And I think that's my instinct as well, because I sort of just want to do this and this and this and this. But I think karate was a great thing for someone like me, like you, potentially to do as a young person, because you do have to slow down a bit, and it is obviously very meditative. And I think also the sort of connection between mind and body I find really beautiful in karate, whereas I think I really liked school and loved studying and all that stuff, and there could have been a version of me that was quite in my head or very cerebral, or and actually having the thing I did most as something that was very physical and very embodied was a really good thing.
It's weird because it's like I'm blaming my mum. She took us to all these things after school. You're not sitting around up. You're going to do something.
Right.
So we did judo. I did judo first, me and my brothers. And judo, in comparison to karate, even though it is very strategic, both of them, but judo is a lot slower, and I feel like there's a lot more planning involved in how you position yourself as opposed to karate. Karate always just felt a bit more, I suppose, instinctive, and you're reacting quicker, even though I always got told off
for your speed. I think there's a massive difference between if you learn it as a kid or an adult as well. I feel like children do, because I did it from so young, if someone were to punch me in the face, I would block it before I knew I was blocking it, I hope.
It's instinctual.
But I think if you learn it as an adult, I think it feels more like a 2-step process. You acknowledge that someone is punching you in the face, and then you decide to do something about it. I think potentially, but I hear what you're saying. There are probably more karate moves in a space of 2 minutes than there are judo
definitely.
moves. Once you're on the ground, you're on the ground.
I'm surprised I even did it, because I'm just this is so slow. I need to put you on the ground. We're still holding on to each other.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right. There is probably like, a faster speed.
Yeah.
But like judo, you go flying, which is quite exciting.
But also, all I need now should apologise to my sensei. Yeah.
Oh, right. That's your takeaway
My
from our
takeaway.
chat.
I think I need to find him and apologise to him. And said, yes, you were right to make me do the kata 5 times because I was not paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, yeah, but they're so cool, kata. Oh, I miss
he used it as punishment. It's like, you can sit there and do the kata. I was like, on my own.
Oh, that's funny. No, we used to have to do push-ups as punishment.
Oh.
If we did something, it would be like 10 push-ups if you like talked.
Oh, God, I'm getting flashbacks now. Oh, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Okay. If you
okay, it's almost formative.
Right. If you could go back to when you were 25 years old, and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, I've just turned 30, so it's not such a crazy. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. But 25, I'm thinking where I was. I think I beat myself up a lot for various decisions or various behaviors or like things I thought I wanted or various things like that. And I think I'd probably say something like, you're doing your best, and like you're not a cruel person, you're not a this or that, like everything you're doing is what you think is the right thing to be doing, and like that's okay. Yeah. I think that give yourself the benefit of the doubt a bit.
Yeah, I think,
because I think I was so much second guessing around that time and so much moral panic that probably something like that.
I think that's mainly what a lot of people say. But I think when you're at 25, you're constantly, you don't think you are, but you are looking across at other people thinking, oh my God, maybe I should be here. I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of that gazing.
I should have handled this like that, or maybe I should have quit this earlier so I could do that. And actually, like everything you're doing is what you think you should do. So like you're
fine.
okay.
You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so what is your non-writing tip for writers?
Non-writing tip for writers. I potentially might get into trouble for this. That's okay. I think that there can be a trend in writing, which is to be really clever, really guarded, really cold and icy and dry and witty and satirical and blah, blah, blah. And there's definitely a place for that. Great. People love reading that. I love reading that. But I think like showing your heart or being vulnerable and sort of like creating art with integrity is the one. I think like don't be afraid to like put yourself out there or yourself and like something like that. I think it would probably be my tip.
I think it's a good tip.
I think like don't try be cool and wry and witty if that's not your vibe. If you are like a really like big feelinged like emotional person, like write that. There are going to be people who really need that. I
feel you'll always come across better and you'll do better if you're just authentic, whether it's that's in your work or whether that's in how you present yourself on social media. Because I think people the outside world, they can see through you quite easily.
They can. You need to be honest. I think maybe that's the sort of summary, like be an honest creative, whatever that means for you.
No, I think that's right. I just like I always say to what do I always say to the baby lawyers? Like you just need to be like be yourself. Focus on yourself. Don't focus on what's going on around you.
Yeah,
like, be you.
Which is hard in writing because like you do need to fit into a genre.
Yeah.
You do like in sort of publishing speak, you do need to be X meets Y. And I think it would be really easy. And I've definitely been a victim is too strong a word, but definitely been influenced by this to be sucked up into the world of this writer or to try and write in the style of or in the genre of. And actually, you do need to fit into a box to be sold, but like you can decorate that box however you like. I think is like
even with your headshots. And the only reason why I bring up headshots because I've always felt like as a crime writer, whenever I see crime writers headshots, they're never. It's very straight and moody and staring straight at character and very serious looking. I can't take a serious picture to save my life, so I was just like, you see my headshot, I'm just like. I'm about to go on a roller coaster. I'm that excited.
All my teeth.
Literally all my teeth. And I'm just like, just be yourself. Because I think if I was trying to do that whole serious, dark, moody, it would just come across like, what is Nadine doing? Like, no,
yeah,
it's not me.
Your friends would be like,
who is this?
Yeah.
family would definitely be like, I
Yeah.
can imagine the kids, Auntie Nadine, this, what are you doing? No. To find
Smile.
smile, yeah, definitely smile. So finally, Indyana, where can listeners find you
Yes.
online?
I am probably most active on Instagram. My handle,
Yeah,
is that the
handle.
word? The at is Indyana. Thank you. Is Indyana Rose, but it's spelled weirdly because my mum likes to be. Maybe she is creative.
She's creative in the name.
Is INDYANAROSE, and I have a website which is probably more singing than writing, but if you just do IndyanaSchneider.com, that is where you'll find me.
You. Well, that just leaves me to say, Indyana Schneider, thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a joy. It really has.
I'm glad you